next episode of From There to Here. We have not really had any broadcasts over the summer, but we are back, and I'm very excited about the guest that we have today. This is Savannah Savino. I don't like to say too much about my guests. I like it to come out as we go along, but she is a musician, a singer, an instrumentalist, and we're going to talk about her journey as a person, as a creative, and things like that. I'll let the conversation do the rest. So, Savannah, how are you?
I am great. Today has been one of the best days of my life, actually.
Yeah.
So,
And we're
yeah.
going to get into some of that here in just a little bit. Um, there's one, I've already told them that you are a singer. There's one question that I ask every guest. So I'll ask you that one question, which is, have you heard the phrase, what is your elevator speech? Have you heard that before?
I have.
So if you had, for my the folks who don't know, elevator speech is if you're in an elevator with a person for a few seconds, you only have a few seconds to kind of, if they ask you, well, who are you or what are you about? You only have a few seconds to say it. So if you had to give me your 10-second elevator speech about who you are, Savannah, what would you say?
I would say I'm on a soul mission to help heal the world through music and sound and storytelling. And yeah, I do that with my voice and my guitar and whistling.
Yes, I saw you whistling on display
Yeah.
today. Um, that's a really specific and, like, I'll say, self-aware elevator speech. So, how long has it been that you would be able to boil yourself down using those words? How long have you felt that about you and your mission? I guess if I can say it that way.
Yeah. So I think so today, which we'll talk about, I had a really amazing opportunity, and that put a lot of things in perspective for me that um being myself and letting God, letting that light shine naturally as a vessel is what I'm here to do. And I think as far as when I knew that, it's just become more evident over time. I think I would say probably like I'm almost 30 now, so my mid 20s, I really started to feel like, okay, this is what it is. And it helped more so when I started writing and finishing original songs. It made it more real that okay, this is what I'm doing.
And I heard you talk a little bit about uh first of all, let's back up. We keep mentioning what happened to you today. Could you explain that to the people
Secret.
who don't know? Because that's a good part of today's story.
Absolutely. So today I woke up, got ready to go before the sun was even up to the 104.1 morning radio station. They are having their first ever music competition. And so I didn't really know what to expect. I thought I was just going to do my performance and that was it. Ended up being a very collaborative, social, laid back event. There's a lot of collaboration, a lot of communication amongst the host and the audience and the performers, competitors, if you will. And it was great. I got to perform. I did an original song and I won. I won. So
Yes.
yeah, so after I won, I played another original, and then they were like, okay, it was really cool because everything was not planned, even on their part. They're like, we didn't plan this, but the guy, one of the hosts' dog, he had to put down today after the show. And I was like, well, that's really sad. And I said, I got a song for that. I was like, I really got a song for that. And so it was it was a double benefit because I wanted to dedicate that to him. I know he's going through a hard time. And I also got to play another original. So after I did that, uh, there's a Duncan studio, which Duncan is part of their radio station. So they have a little like rhythm rug area to do
Mm-hmm.
another. So we just kind of transitioned the studio performance from one end of the studio to a different hall. And I did three originals there. And let me tell you, it felt like a Tiny Desk concert, which I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of
Oh, me
Tiny
too.
Desk. And I was in it, man. Like I just felt it and I was like, this is what I've been waiting for because I have sat on YouTube and just mesmerized watching so many of my favorite artists perform. And this was like my own version of that. And it was just I was like, I know you, girl. I know what you like. I know what kind of, what you would feel really great about if this happened. And it's like everything, it was like beyond comprehension of like what I could envision would have happened. And this all happened before 12 p.m., by the way. So this was like an
Okay.
entire day within a morning. And so it was amazing. And this radio broadcast is so it's 104.1 the Monster Radio. They have sister stations and I was informed that about 2 million people heard me today across the world. I was like, wow. So that's it. I mean, that's the rest is history from here.
And when you woke up this morning, you didn't know any of, you just thought you were going to do maybe your one song, I guess,
Right.
and that's it.
That's it. I was like, I'm just gonna come here. I was a finalist out of five individuals, and they're like, okay, you're gonna come to the station and you're gonna do your song. That's it. That's all I knew. I said, okay, and here I am. And then it was a whole gift. So it was amazing. I'm still floating on it.
I
It's
can
amazing.
see you just glowing, and that's how people should be when they're doing their thing, whatever their thing is. Um, Now you told me that the way you described yourself in the elevator is something that you would have said maybe from your mid-20s, but you've been singing longer than that.
Right.
So what did you think about music or your place in music when you were singing, but prior to that time? Like my first time being aware of you, I was administrator at the high school where you went. My kids are very much into music, and they told me there's this 10th grade girl who sings like a grown black woman. That's the exact way they describe. I said, okay. And shortly after that, there was like a talent show or something, something. And I heard you and I told them whatever, however they described you was dead on. So what did you think about music, your place in music when you were, I don't know, 13, 14, 15, something like that?
So in that time, I think I was figuring it out, right? I was getting my influences. I was listening, I was observing, I was feeling into, all different types of music. And I wrote songs, but like many artists, I wouldn't finish them oftentimes. And so it was kind of like, let me just play certain things. Because also at that age too, it's like if you could play a song that people know, and you're around your peers, it's like, oh, that's cool. So I would just do a lot of covers, and then when I would play out and do gigs and whatnot, they mostly want you to play covers too. So I
Yeah.
just did covers and just kind of got in the flow of that and learning a lot of songs. And then yeah, I would say around like 23, 24 is when I really um, started honing in on my writing more and taking it more seriously and finishing and being happy with it. So that was a big step for me to just start doing that. And so now I'm just like, I gotta get my album out soon, starting to
Yeah.
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 I don't even think I'm gonna do an EP. I think I'm actually gonna do an album and maybe even put it on a CD, even though people don't
I
really
know that's
listen
the
to
thing
it.
again. Yeah. Yeah.
Or a record. Because I remember I love collecting CDs and listening to CD player, like in a car, whatever, boombox.
Oh, wow. Boombox. You're dating
Oh,
yourself.
yeah. We
Wow.
had one of those. Remember that little noise it would make? It would be like, because it was like focusing, like it was like ready. And you're like, you hear the little crispy noise, you're like, it's about to start. Then you just get your groove on.
You are the real thing. I'm sure someone has described you as being an old soul. I'm sure you've heard that
Oh,
before.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I have. And I take it as a big compliment because
Oh, you
I think
should.
I
You
am.
definitely should. Well, let me now, do you do music and performing? Is that your all you do as far as financially? Is music a full-time thing for you, or is it a hobby, or what is it as far as business, money, that kind of thing?
So, not fully. It is in part, but I do have some other projects that I work on for for financial, and honestly some of it's fun too. I do photography and like food delivery, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
working on building up some workshops and different topics on those too. So those things plus music and but yeah, music ultimately that would be great if I could just do it full time.
Of course, that's the dream, and I look forward to seeing that for you. You talked about finishing songs because I know a lot of creative people. That's a thing for them to finish the song or the book or the painting or whatever. In your creative could you describe to us what's your creative process when you're writing a song? Do you wait till an idea comes to you, or do you say, "Okay, I'm sitting down now. I'm going to write a song now. What am I going to do?" How do you create original things?
So it goes a little something like this, okay? Can't sleep? Oh, inspiration hits at any time. It's like 2 in the morning. I'm like, let me get the beat out, okay? Let me get a notepad. Let me do the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's pretty much how it goes. Or like I'll be driving down the road and I'll be like, Siri, wait a minute, you gotta type this out for me. Type this out, I'm driving.
Ah,
Yeah, that's what happens. It's kind of like one of those little like bright stars. It's like boom, and just slaps you in the head at random times. That's pretty much how it is. Yeah. How
okay.
great would it be if we could schedule inspiration and just be
What a
like at
quote.
2:30 p.m. we will be writing in a Grammy winning hit. I wish.
That would be perfect. I love to hear creative people talk about how they do, what their process is, because I know of creatives who they're scheduled like, every day at such and such, I sit down and maybe inspiration comes, maybe it doesn't or whatever, but they're more regimented. And then others just like you, like lightning strikes and comets in the sky and that kind of stuff. So it's all kind of
Well,
right.
that's a good approach too, though. I mean, I would like to get to a point where it becomes part of my daily routine. My schedule's all over the place currently, so it's kind of hard. But yes, that I like that approach too. To be able to, it's like at least you have intention, and you're setting out. It's like it may come, it may not, but I'm going to be intentional about this. 20 minutes that I have here and do that. Good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, I've seen it done every possible way. When you were a kid or coming up, who who were or who are some of your influences as far as the music now that you like or that you want to do? Who'd you look up to, or who shaped your ears is the way I like to say it.
Let me pull out my iPod Nano real quick. I've got like
Wow.
2,000 songs that shaped my little high school mind back. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. There's so many. But two that came to mind instantly was Amy Winehouse, of course, and a sister group called Rising Appalachia. They're from Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
They're like folksy. Um, they got some soul. They're good, and they write a lot of I guess what you call like medicine music. They're like folk, but it's just very raw acoustic. They got banjos. They got a full band. I really took to them. I found them randomly on back when you make. See, I know I'm young, but I'm older than some. Okay, like
Okay.
because I say that because I'm like, remember back in the day? No, but like you would download songs and sometimes you didn't know what you were downloading because it was like grouped in with a whole bunch of stuff, but you
Yeah.
just saw the little percentage. Well, I came across this song that they had and I was like, this sounds pretty good, but I always sang it, but I didn't know who it was. And I was like, I'm gonna sit down and listen to the lyrics so I can actually figure out who this is. And then I started looking at their stuff and I just been following them ever since. So yeah, they're really good.
For you, was the singing come first or playing the guitar? What came first for you musically?
Whistling. When I was a baby, I was in a department store with my mom.
Okay.
Like I'm literally like in a department store, and she's like, "Sherry, look at this baby. This baby's over here whistling," and everybody like was just like stopping what they were doing. And I'm like, my mom told me this. I was like, That's pretty dang cool. So the whistling has been there. It descended. It descended from heaven. It's been there from the start.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
but no, in all seriousness, okay, so the whistling and then the singing and then guitar in that order.
Okay.
There you go. You're like, Lord have mercy. This is
Yeah, I
good.
haven't heard the whistle. Okay. All right. Hey, that's your story. That's all right. Um, would you talk to us about how you, if you could put into words, well, like even today, when you were at the radio station singing your original songs, being in your zone, in your element, can you describe what that feels like? What a moment like that feels like for you?
I would say balance. So in those moments, it's like everything is as it should be because when I'm playing and conveying and it means something to people around me too and they're feeling strongly about it is it's incredible. It's like that's part of why I do what I do. And a lot of people had told me that today that they really connected with my songs. And a lot of people were crying. I've never I've played and I've had people cry before, but to have I would say a good like 90% of the people crying in the room, not even exaggerating, was amazing. I was like, wow. So I think having that kind of audience and just being in my zone is it's a it's like a balancing of mind, body, spirit. It's amazing.
Is there, and I know that, is there a dream venue you'd like to play? I want to play Coachella. I want to play Madison Square Garden. Do you have a few dream scenarios out there as far as where you'd like
Yes.
to? I'm sure Tiny Desk is on the list.
Yes. Tiny Desk. Red Rock in Colorado. I would definitely love to play there. Somewhere in Italy with my ancestors, somewhere over there would be cool because they're from a really small town. And if I ever got the chance to physically go there, I'd be like, hey, my folks are from here and I'm here now. So they'd be like, okay, but that would be really cool. Um, I just think a lot of and festivals. I would really like to start doing like festivals. I like the outdoorsy feel when it's not 94 degrees humidity. So
104, yeah.
yeah, so maybe like in the fall would be a good time to do festivals in Florida. But it's magical. Like fall in Florida with live music outside. That's on my bucket list.
I could see you in some kind of North Carolina, Asheville type of
Yeah.
thing in October, that right? That kind of a
Yeah,
thing.
I would do that for sure. I like Asheville. It's a pretty town.
How about I'd like my guests to give advice to an imaginary person coming behind them. So let's say there's a friend of yours and their little cousin or whatever is high school age and they have a music hobby, but they feel a little insecure about sharing it. You know, I'm not that comparing themselves to others or whatever. And it's clear they have something, but they're very shaky about sharing it. Or the other part of it, well, if well, I'm just from Little Ormond, I'm not from New York, no one will ever hear me, all that kind of stuff. If those are the things kind of weighing them down, you had a chance to talk to little Sally or Billy, what would you say?
I would say sit with that, sit with that feeling because it is real and it's frustrating sometimes. And also don't stop because it's a process. So it's like you're what to say you're 13 years old. You don't know where you're going to be when you're 20 years old and then when you're 30 years old. Like so much can happen in such a short period of time. I think the biggest thing is, and I know it's been said before, but don't give up. That's my biggest thing. Is like don't give up. Keep doing what you're doing because it is a progression and the people that love and care about you that are watching you, they will tell you, "Hey, even since 3 months ago, we can see a difference in you and your music, and that is especially in those tender years is a lot of validation for somebody to be like, hey, I see you, you're growing, you got to keep doing that. I would also encourage them to be a part of whatever musical activities their school has to offer. I know when I
Hmm.
went to Seabreeze, I was like talking to Skeisha, I was like, give me in anything you can give me in. Like if because I was in jazz band, I was in choir. And I did a lot of the I think what he called it is the coffee shop in betweens. So in between concert band, in between all the band acts, he'd fit me in there to do a few songs.
Yeah.
And that for me was awesome because it was like practice, it was an opportunity, it was a lot of things. And so and then doing, if there's a battle of the bands, any kind of competition, like just do it all because you're in high school, It's like it's not you're not even out in the world yet, so just
Yeah.
have fun with it. I would just say don't give up and don't take yourself too seriously because you got a lot of time.
I love that last one. Not take yourself too seriously because everything can feel like it's life and death if you're 15 years old. It really isn't, but you don't know that yet.
Right. Right.
I was going to ask you, what in your creative journey? I know I have a niece who's, well, a lot of people in the family that are very creative, and I always talk to her about how artists sometimes tend to be emotional, right? They ride that wave of emotion that helps them create, but it also, does other things. If you want, if you can you reflect on maybe one of the lowest times you had creatively, like maybe a time where you felt like forget this music thing or I'm no good or anything, something like that. Did you have seasons like that? And if so, what were they like?
Oh yeah. I remember I used to work 12-hour shifts in a call center. And a lot of times I did overtime and I had a baby, my daughter. And it was tough, I was nonstop working, nonstop momming. Sometimes it's still like that. But I think when seemingly life circumstances stack up and you got it's almost like if you look at your passion as like this little bright light and you want to protect it and you want to be near it. But you're like you got all these other things that are demanding your attention, makes it really difficult, And when you, especially it's like when your muscles are getting tired and you're like, I don't even know if this is gonna happen because I got all these other things that need taking care of. Um, so it is very real and it's very um frustrating and disheartening when those huge waves come because it's almost like you just have to sit there and let it pass because it will pass, but you just don't know how
Okay.
long it's going to be sometimes. But yeah, it is in those moments it's definitely like dang. But it goes back to what I said. You can't give up because you just don't know. You just don't know what's going to happen next.
Uh, and when you're young, temporary things seem like they last forever. So that is good advice for Billy or Sally or whoever. Now, beside the practical stuff of the money making or whatever, and then the nuts and bolts of music and notes and stuff, when you described your music at the beginning, you talked about kind of a, for lack of a better word, kind of a spiritual aspect to how you see what you do. Could you talk about that a bit more?
I see it spiritually because what I write is no fluff. Like what I write is what I mean, is what I feel, is what I'm thinking, and it means something. It means something to me, and oftentimes it means something to somebody else. So to me, that is a spiritual exchange when it impacts people in a way that they remember that. And a lot of my songs are kind of like the name of your podcast, From There to Here. It's a journey. And so to me, that's very spiritual because we're all on a journey. And with all the ups and downs that come with that, it is a spiritual experience. And, I do believe in God, I believe in higher power. And I think what we experience on a daily basis is the result of a lot of spiritual things going on. And so that is interconnected with my music too. So it's part of how I write. It's part of who I am,
Hmm.
and it's part of how I see the world. So in that way, it is spiritual.
I know just talking to you because when I first met you, you were like a kid in high school, and then some years later, kind of connect with social media or whatever. And it seems like at each stage, you're as we all grow, but there's like a maturity, not a boring maturity, but just a maturity that has come. Where did that maturity come from? Is it just simply having more birthdays? Is it life experience? Where does that come from?
Maturity comes from saying, okay, all right. And then you pick a path that you're gonna go from there. It's like it's like there's this nugget, if you will, of an experience. It's got something to teach you, it's got some kind of wisdom. And then maturity comes when you say, okay, and you actually hold it, feel it out, and then decide what you're gonna do from there. And that can come at any age.
You are definitely a writer because every other sentence you have some kind of like analogy or something in there. Don't ever throw that away. That's
Oh,
just seeping out of your pores. I see that.
thank you.
Well,
I
what
love
would
writing.
it's
That's awesome.
obvious. What do you see for yourself creatively over in this next year or two? What at least what would you like to happen for you as far as your creative life in the in next couple of years? What would you say?
Creative life, I would definitely love to get some music streaming on platforms, having that, a solid establishment on that. Definitely would like to travel more, and get to perform in those traveled places as well. So I would say that I think it would be just solidifying more originals, getting those out, and traveling.
Got it. Got it. I have so enjoyed. I joked before, but I really feel like this. Like you're like a celebrity. Now I don't know how many people know you as a celebrity like that, but being a person who I've known for music for these last 10 years or more, and someone who's staying with it. Because so, the talented people on a dime a dozen, but there's a lot of them, but they don't
Right.
stay with it. And so it's encouraging to me just to see someone with talent, but who has a higher meaning for what they do, and they're still doing it. Why have so I said that the preface. I guess one of my last questions: why haven't you quit? Because doing anything creatively has its challenges. So if someone would ask you, well, why haven't you quit? Other people have quit. What would you say?
I love it. It's my purpose. And it's bigger than me. It's not just like I'm playing music and it makes me feel good and people say it sounds good. Like it's way more than that to me. It's gospel. Like it's a whole thing. That's what I'm saying. Like it's part of me. It's part of my message. It's part of it's part of the revolution. It's part of the revolution of the world and how people go about things and think. Because if you think about it, right? Like if you're having a bad day,
Yes.
but then Lovely Day by Bill Withers comes on, are you still having a bad day? Like, no, you might still be
Sure.
feeling like, okay, like I still feel kind of bad, but you still feel kind of good now. Okay. Because at
Yeah.
first you were just completely bad, but now you're like, I feel a little lighter. And that's powerful, like you could turn on a song and it
Yes.
could just change your whole mood. And then you're like, you know, somebody comes in, you're like, hey, everything's good. You're like, aren't you just like in a funk like 10 minutes ago? No, I'm good. I'm good. I listened to my favorite song. I'm good. So that to me, the fact that I have the ability and the gift to play a hand in that and to have that impact,
Yeah.
um, that's why I don't stop because world's a crazy place. Like we all know that. So it's like people need music and it's almost like it's not to me it's not a want, it's a need. And I believe it's like if God gives you gifts, you use your gifts. And that's another thing that helped push me too to get out of my own way
Hmm.
is that it's like when you have an assignment, that's your assignment. Like you got to do that, whatever that may be. So, and that's how I feel about it. It's like it's a want and a need, which makes it that much stronger. Instead of like, oh, I just want to do it. It's like, no, I need to do it, and it's awesome. It's a calling.
You have thrown, I like to notice words that my guests say repeatedly that they're not even always aware. You said the word gift about 12 times today, and I think that is significant. Uh,
Mhm.
two non examples. My wife is a wedding planner, and she was called in kind of in mid process when this couple was working on the wedding. So she wasn't involved in everything because they asked her late. They paid the DJ in advance, everything, not a deposit. So wedding
Right.
time, he didn't show. It was an outdoor wedding. He was supposed to be playing the music for the marching down the aisle, music for the reception. Didn't show. As the bride walked down the aisle, the bridesmaids played the wedding march music on their cell phones walking next to her because there was no music. And it just showed the void that music leaves if it's not in a place, which is like
Mm.
the total opposite of you. And the other is I worked with a guy. We talked, he was a football coach. We talked about music because I love it. He said he listens to no music. And if all music disappeared from the world tomorrow, his life wouldn't change at all. I said, Johnny, that can't be true.
Say
But the
it
long,
ain't so.
but the longer I talked to this guy, for him, I think it was true. I just can't imagine a world like I don't think I want to be in that one, and I can't imagine that. Um,
Right. Be very quiet.
and yes, and worse than that. Um, and who would be my last question, I guess. Who would be two or three living collaborators, artists that we all know that in your dream world you got to sing with or play for, write with? Could you name a couple that you would, in a fantasy world, love to perform with living?
Yes. Okay. Old soul mode to reality soul mode. No. All right, let's see. Um, ah, you would ask me this like in the silence, like if I had like my music on shuffle, because I'll literally be going down the road and I'll be like, I'm doing a collab with them. I
Ah,
love this song. And I'm like, okay, let me try to think about it. What honestly came to mind first was Joyner Lucas. He's like one of my favorite
okay.
artists now.
Yeah.
I saw him play in May in St. Pete, and that's what I'm talking about. Like he's a great artist, like hip hop rapper, but
Yeah.
his performance. I mean, this guy, he put his whole soul into this because he reenacted, it's kind of like a play. He had it like the whole stage decorated, but then he did a dedication to Mac Miller with like a projector screen. And he put some time and
Yeah.
effort into that. And he sang the song 3 times. It's
Wow.
called 17. It's off his new album. Yeah, but he sang it 3 times. Cause he's just, he's hype. Like that's one of his friends that, passed away. So it's like, okay, yeah, I like that guy a lot. And I like the idea of collaborating with people in other genres.
Yeah.
So like rap and hip hop is one, which I don't know, I'm kind of hip hop, but like for them to rap and me to sing, that's definitely a goal of mine. Even country, actually. So I've
Mm-hmm.
been like dabbling in country lately, and I'm not mad about it. Like I like country. I didn't think I did, but now I do.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, it's funny because like I think a couple artists, um, I I would probably Post Malone is popping off everywhere. I mean, every genre, he's just huge. So I'm like, I mean, I might do something with him if he wanted to.
Okay.
Do some kind of collab. And I at this point, since I'm not famous yet,
Yeah.
if anybody came up and was like, "Hey, you want to do a collab?" I'd be like, "Let's try it out."
Okay.
So I'm pretty open. Um, but that sister group I was telling you about, I definitely would like to do something with them too. Um, so yeah, because they have like a whole band and all different instruments, and that I
Okay.
know that would be like a barefoot MTV type of performance, so that would be fun.
Got it.
So
Okay. Well, I hope that that happens before too long. And I love your attitude. And with other people that I know that are creatives, yes, it's good that you're creative and talented, but also that You have a persistence and a drive not to quit, because that's why there's a lot of people in the world we haven't heard their stuff because they stopped before we got the chance, to hear them. And you're still going and pushing with the absolute best to come. And I'm honored. I wasn't joking when I said that. I'm honored that you were on my podcast today. I appreciate it.
Hey, it's an honor that you have me. And you specifically have been a huge blessing in my journey because you're always like, Savannah, you're gonna make it. Savannah, like you've been doing that like since I was in high school and like you still are. And that means a lot. It really does. Especially on those low points where I'm like, man, I don't know about this. Like, I don't know if it's gonna work. And you're
Right.
like, keep going. So I mean, I gotta self motivate and God motivate, but
Yeah.
people around me make a big difference too, and you're one of them. And I really appreciate that.
I appreciate you sharing that.